just let's know when you are working with the database. In this case, we're using Microsoft Access Database. The server always holds ownership of that database, meaning that many people can access it at the same time because no one takes ownership. They will send instructions to the server, and then the server will do those actions. Do you guys get this? Okay, now, yes.
It's live shoot up.
Yes.
That's
Okay, now, alright. So what you're going to do first, it's not like a Word doc or Excel or anything where you can start creating it and then save it. You must actually, the first step is to save it so that the server can hold ownership of it. So you literally save it so you have a logical server that is in your local system that is acting. So even if when you're communicating with it locally and it's not on a server, please turn off the volume on the, or use your headphones, Rico.
Me?
Or someone. Mark. Okay. Now, what you'll see there is, so you start off by creating the database so that it can create its own logical server, even though it's a pretend server because it's within the same system right now. If you share it on a network or you do anything, it will be the central server that will always manage the functions of the database. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? Now, so we start off by creating it and saving it in locations. I'm going to call this DB crosswords. Okay, so it's my database for my crosswords. So you start off by creating it, you then go into it. Now, there will be security warnings because when you work with databasing, there's a lot of, you're dealing with much more back end rather than front end. This is now more a programmer's storage rather than a front end user stuff. Alright, so now what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be starting by going create. So we're going to create here. Now, you don't need to worry about in IT, you don't need to worry about queries or forms or any of this kind of stuff because this is just literally make things prettier, filter things, but we actually use our program to filter things and items like that, and we'll get into that later. With regards to query, we actually do our queries in SQL view, which we'll get into very shortly actually, is how to do the queries. But right now, we want to create a database. So we're going to create a table, and our first table that we wanted to create was our crossword table or our question and answer table. So we're going to first have our, I'm just going to put a unique ID. So I want to say question ID. This will be an automatically generated text, and it will be, sorry, I can't help with iPads during lessons. What you'll see there is that all on YouTube. Now, what we're going to do is the question ID is just a unique identifier, so every single one we're there will actually have the question then and what the correct answer would be. There is a, here I've set the limit to 255 because the question might be long. I might potentially say I don't want any field longer than 20. But in your front end you would also have to block this. Does that make sense? So here you're starting to indicate now, because you're doing this as a pat, I would suggest in part of your design document you have to put descriptions down on what each field is for. So I would indicate unique identifier for each question. You guys get the idea. And would assign a unique number automatically. So you'll give me an explanation into there. Do you guys follow? And you'll do the same for each one of them. Now when it came to our next one, our next field that we would need to know the topic FK. We don't have the topic table yet, so for now I'm just going to say TFK. I'll come back to it. I'll just say, just for sake of ease of knowing what we're talking about. So I'm just going to leave that as a short text at the moment, but I will we will look at what data type we need to link it to later. Now the next one we've got is we have another field we'll need is the level. So for the level, the data type wouldn't make sense as a short text, so we would make that a number. I could even look at, we're not going to have very, very large long integer levels, like level 1593. It's very unlikely, isn't it? So we can save storage space by making it a byte. Nowadays, I know people don't pay as much attention to that, but storage, you don't want to needlessly use storage space in your program. Does that make sense? So you can justify, okay, I made this a byte field size because of the fact that, so I've changed my field size here from a long integer. An integer goes up to 32 million something, I don't know, and a byte is up to 255. So we're not going to, bytes is enough for us to store a level. Do you guys get that? So now after I've done that, I'm going to save my table, so Control S, and I'm going to call it TBL crosswords. Now, you guys will notice as I create a new table, I can go to this view now. I'll switch the views here. So on the left hand side, I can change the view, and in this view, I can now enter my question. So my first question can be, give me a one-word answer question. So a question that has a one-word answer.
Yes. You're an idiot. Yes, yes.
Is Matthew an idiot? Okay. So you would come up with your questions here, and I'm going blank as far as the question is concerned.
What planet of the school schedule messed up? Yes.
Is Donald Trump the best president ever?
In the world.
Yes, that's a true word.
Okay, we'll use a. That's too short an answer. I'll let you. Okay, we are live streaming here, and we have got blank as far as actually good questions are concerned.
Do you know the way? Do you know the way? Do you know the way? That's the question.
No.
Do you know the way?
Do you know the way?
Do you know the way? Do you?
No, you can't have a yes no answer. This is a crossword.
You know the way.
Okay. I'm moving on because, quite frankly, damn. So we're going to close this for now. We're going to create our other table. Now, on our other table that we're going to create, it's going to be our topic table. So we're going to sit there and we're first going to have our topic, because our topic is our name of our topic, and this can be our primary key, because you shouldn't have two topics of the same name. Does that make sense? Otherwise, so the topic name is the actual unique identifier. Now, you would also want then maybe a category that the topic is in. So, for example, the category of the topic might be geography, and the topic is on, I don't know much about geography. Okay, the category might be IT, and then the topic would be hardware. Does that make sense? So you'd have a category or potentially subject you could look at or anything along those lines. So you might have a sports category and cricket topic or whatever. You guys get that? So this is going to be our table here for our topic, and we're going to call this TBL topic. Now, keep to your naming conventions, because remember, when you're in Java and you're communicating with things like this, you have to remember what you called stuff. So if you change naming conventions in between, which I sometimes tend to do, you'll try to create the SQL code to retrieve this data where you have to refer to table names and field names, and if it's not what you thought it's called, you'll have an error and you'll take a while to figure it out. So please try to keep to your naming conventions. So short text for both of those is fine. We then need another table for, so create again table design for saved crossword. So I'm going to do this a bit quicker. So we're going to have the saved name. So what we're going to save the name as must be unique. So we'll make that the primary key. We will then have the topic FK, which is short text. And the reason why I'm happy to leave that short text is because I made sure that my topic name is also short text, same data type, same number of characters. Does that make sense? So when you do a foreign key and you're referring to another field, you must make sure the data types match, because you can't be doing the link without actually without it being the same topic. Does this make sense? Now, the next thing we're going to do other than the topic FK is we need the level, and level can be a number, and we made that a byte, didn't we? Because it's the same type of stuff, we must try and make sure that we keep to the same, if it's the same kind of entry that's going in there, we must keep to the same data types and everything. We are then going to have size X, which will also be a number, but this one I will keep as a long integer. I don't think we'll ever get across with that large, but rather be safe than sorry on this one. And size Y, so number. So now we've got our, this is our saved saves, I'll just say. Then we're going to create our last one, which will be table design. Now this one I'm going to say cell ID, so I'm referring to individual cells, but I'm just going to make this an auto number as our primary key. I am then going to refer specifically to the save FK, which will then refer to this here. This primary key in TBL saves was the save names, which was short text, so same data type as a foreign key there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sit there and we're going to create a sorry, I don't remember what we were talking about. We were talking about the fact that our crossword would then have to have a X, so where the physical X coordinate is, which will be we did a long integer for the sizes, so we'll be a long integer as well, X and Y, so this will be the coordinates, how wide and how many rows and how many columns will exist in this table of crosswords. Then we would have a saved what the actual character in that cell should be, so the correct character, if you will. So I'm going to name it correct character so we don't get confused. So this will be the character that is correct for that instance. So in this case, it's only going to be a single text, isn't it? So field size can literally be 1. Do you guys follow that? So per a single character cell, it can either be A or a B or a C up to Z. So there's a single character. Now, in my coding, I will need to remember that I need to troubleshoot and I need to make sure that it will accept small letters and capital letters and this kind of thing. So we need to be able to handle that. But that we'll think about a bit later. Do you guys get that? How are we going to make sure our program doesn't work with that? So now I save this, and this is my table saved. So now if I call this TBL, what was this? This is saved cells. Saves cells, because I called that one saves. So these are the cells that are related to that. And now we've got our database set up. Now one thing I want to show you that will help you for later stages of Access when we start dealing with SQL code is if you go to your file options, you'll notice that, okay, let me show you first what the problem is. If I open up all tables, I can't see all tables at the same time, can I? And that's a little bit annoying. So when working in IT, in IT, it's actually better to set up your database, and unfortunately you have to do this for every single one. There might be a shortcut to make it on all. But you want to change the way your one opens. So if your current database, you've got a current database and you change how it's going to be viewed, I've got to remember where this is now. There we go. It says tab documents or overlapping windows. If you tick overlapping windows, you go okay. It will ask you that you have to close your database first before it takes effect. So you close it and open it, and now when you open up your tables, you'll see it will open up in different windows. And then you can lay out your windows so you can see every one of them at the same time. So now I can have my topic down here, I can have my saved cells here, and I can have and now I can have the different things here. So I can have them all open at the same time. Now what this allows us to do is this is now a opened database. Now what I'm wanting you guys to do now is for your own pets that you've already designed the database, I want you to physically create your databases and literally with descriptions and so forth. The next thing I'm going to go into, I'm going to try to see if I can't locate those printouts that I gave, and I'll fetch them while you guys do that, okay? Alright, goodbye.